are a minuscule portion, but the number of doses which we manufacture and sell to the rest of the world is very large, and that is the reason why we are known as the pharmacy of the world. So coming to the context of the question which you asked, Manish, fortunately, touch wood, till now, as yet, pharma is not impacted, because the moment actually pharma imports have a tariff, the patients will ultimately have to pay a lot more and the government will have to pay a lot more. Therefore, this has been right now excluded under two reasons. One is, of course, it will increase the cost. That would be the case for even otherwise. But secondly, the supply chains require a longer time to get adjusted to in pharma. If I decide to kind of set up a factory which is exporting to the US FDA, the lead time for setting up a factory is 4 to 5 years. Yeah. So take why, you cannot say that, I will actually adjust my supply chain like garments. I put in a lot of import duty on garments from India, so Bangladesh can start exporting it. In pharmaceutical, it's not the case. So these are the two reasons why we have been exempted as yet. And again, I'm saying so. You never know when the mood changes.
Right.
Although these days we have seen the mood softening overnight. But having said that, we also have a short-term, medium-term and long-term strategy for how do we tackle this particular imports for a specific branded part of the business. The short-term strategy was to increase the inventory. The medium-term was to actually make sure that the first invoice number is actually used for the purposes of import duty payment and not the final invoice number. And the long-term strategy is to actually localize the production in the US.
Fantastic. Thanks for this input. How about sharing some insights on the sustainable logistics or sustainability aspect from Sun Pharma point of view, and your personal point of view also on the demand for net zero, and is there any implication on cost for maintaining that?
Again, a fantastic question. To be honest with you, a lot of people, and I see a lot of the green colored number plates these days, which are basically electric vehicles and sustainability. And there is, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 sustainability stuff, which happens across the country. But specifically to logistics, I am also an advisor to the Government of India on the logistics. I attend those meetings once in a year, headed by, the Commerce Ministry and the, Mr. Gadkari. So, there is something called as an inflection point. It comes when the convergence of technologies happen. What I mean thereby is that the question has an answer. Is it actually more expensive to be sustainable? In the beginning, when the technology is starting, when there is not enough innovation, the costs are higher. But believe me or not, you will actually find that sustainable technologies will become cheaper, not in the longer run, but in the medium run. I'll give you a very simple example. I don't know, there's nobody from the cement industry here, but cement industry, actually the cost of transportation as a percentage of revenue is perhaps one of the very high, stuff. Because if you take a 500 kg, cement bag, it costs you, 50 kg cement bag, it costs you like 500, 600 rupees a bag, which is like 10 to 12 rupees a kilo. Bottled water is more expensive than that, just so that you guys are aware, yeah? So the cost of transportation is extremely high. And there is a huge electrification of vehicles which is happening there, because the cost per kilometer per ton is actually much lower when you drive an electric vehicle. And so the whole idea which I'm trying to say is that as long as there is, so when there is a convergence of technologies, which is cost implication, innovation, the range anxiety, all these things happen together, then it will actually become cheaper to have more sustainable transportation and logistics rather, and I'm sure you will also bear with me over a period of time. And there is a 400 kilometer range, 400 kilometer road, which actually Mr. Gadkari is going to pioneer, where they are actually trying to put an overhead electrified line. With pantographs, you can actually kind of drive the vehicle as well as charge the vehicle. And the other thing which is happening is the RoRos. What I mean is that in the main sectors, which is Bombay to Delhi, the freight corridor which is getting completed. They will have ro-ros, which means the truck will roll on in Bombay, it will roll off in Delhi, and the transportation is electrified without electric trucks. So these are some of those innovative things which are happening in the country, and I'm very positive about it, that it won't be more expensive, but it will be less expensive in the medium run. And when I say medium run, in the next 3 years' time.
How about sharing some insights, how you are as Sun Pharmaceuticals tackling these?
So last mile we are electrifying, we have already electrified about 40-50%. Last mile is the first thing to electrify because the last mile trucks go, drop and come back to the same location. So charging is so much more easier. I'm sure Asian Paints also does the similar stuff. Yeah. The pharma world, our value density of goods is very large. And, Mr. Neeraj Kumar was mentioning, many cases for us, transporting by air is cheaper than transporting by sea. And I'll tell you why. Because if there is a pallet of goods which costs me $10 million, the cost of transportation remains the same as $2,000. But the cost of insurance, when I put it on sea for 1 month, is actually 10 times more than the cost of air. So what you mentioned, I was able to relate to it, very clearly, Mr. Neeraj. So to cut a long story short, from a sustainability point of view, what we are trying to do is do the last mile first, and then go to the first mile and the mid mile.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Harishji, over to you on...
If I may, with the permission of the panel and with the permission of the audience, can I excuse myself, please? Yeah. Thank you so much. I had messed up on this particular appointment, but next time I guarantee that I will be here for a longer time for interacting with everybody and learning. Yeah. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Thank you.
Thanks. So Harishji, over to you. Asian Paints has been one of the pioneering company in the paint industry for long and has done a lot of innovations, and some of them are disruptive innovation. On safety element, would you like to share any thoughts on how we go about, from logistics point of view, how we are playing out, what kind of practices, best practices, because you said standards and match to the global standard, being a truly Indian company. So if you would like to share some thoughts around that.
Good morning, and thanks for having me on this panel. I think a lot of you know Asian Paints for the brand which touches the consumer. But if you really look at the end-to-end supply chain, everything before manufacturing is a lot chemical in nature. And, we handle a lot of hazardous chemicals upstream in our supply chain, right? And a lot of it comes from obviously the petchem industry, and a lot of it moves across the sea as well, because in petchem a lot of it the Indian capacity of some of the molecules is non-existent in that sense. So when we look at movement of hazardous chemicals, I think we have been looking at it like an end-to-end kind of a governance model, where when we try to formulate a product, the chemical which we kind of, our R&D looks at it, we really look at the end-to-end assessment even before the chemical enters into our organization. And we really look at the entire, at each touch point, how that has to be handled, what are the inherent hazards, and how can we kind of mitigate that. And a lot of it stems from, probably putting safety at the forefront, not only of the safety within our premises, but the end-to-end logistics safety in some sense. So, to kind of give an example, in some of it we kind of been very proactive. For example, all our, let's say styrene is one of the very bulk volume chemicals we handle, right? And there we kind of, ship it in an ISO container, even, before some of that became standards in the country. So that even if there is a hazard on the road, the environment is kind of not impacted. But having said that, I think over the last 3 to 4 years, really what we have brought in is leveraging technology a lot more. And I think Mr. Selva mentioned about Nicer. So we've been one of the early adopters of Nicer's platform, and more recently some of the other track and trace technologies as well, and putting in partnering with organizations which give us a full end-to-end visibility. And one is technology, but a lot of focus is also on the people part of it, right? So all of a sudden there is a certain level at which the transporter, the truck drivers operate. So how do we really, enable them? How do we, train them? How do we kind of guide them? Because there's only this much you can do with surveillance. So how do we really onboard the entire larger ecosystem? And then obviously comes in the, disaster management. In case there is an episode, how do we have a response team which goes ahead and handles some of those disasters which happen? One of the other hallmark is that, everything in Asian Paints is driven strongly through matrices. So we have kind of looked at, one is to monitor the trucks and look at the incidents, but we say, okay, let's create a, tanker transporter incident rate kind of a metric, which says that how many incidences are happening annually as a baseline of the number of kilometers traveled. So that only talks about the incidents, but sometimes even a smaller spillage can result into a larger impact. So we also looked at the intensity rate of that, where we say how much kilograms of chemical is spilled over how much ton kilometers is kind of shipped. So to give an idea, on an average, every day around 60 hazardous trucks which bring in material from ports or any of our vendors is on the street anywhere. So that is the kind of chemical which is moving with whatever inherent energy which is there. So look at it end to end, bring in the people dimension, and ensure that each stage we look at the process safety parameters of the entire chemical which is being handled. So that's the approach kind of we have taken over the last, I would say, 1 decade on safety and of moving of hazardous chemicals.
Fantastic. I think that was very insightful. Round of applause for Harish. Thanks for sharing that. Over to you, Ronak. We have been meeting each other quite often, and I see that VTrans has done some very good work in this chemical logistics space. Would you like to share some of your point of view on two aspects? One is, how do you see the acceptance of newer solutions you offer by your chemical industry customers? Because you serve all industries. Chemical is for you one of them. So something we can learn from other industries in terms of adoption of newer solutions. And second is how VTrans is evolving for chemical industry, something new.
Thank you, Manish Bhai. I think firstly a very good morning to all of you. So I think Manish Bhai, what you mentioned, our journey with chemicals started very early on. We as a company, I think most of us would be knowing, were called Vijay Transport Company. So we started by the name of Vijay Transport in the year 1958. So we are a 67-year-old company. And along our journey, so we started, providing services between Maharashtra and Gujarat. And organically, this sector or this route was always very heavily dominated by two industries. First was chemicals and second was textiles. So our association with chemicals, or chemical companies, traders, MSMEs started very early on. And we've seen literally in our last 67 years, we've seen the industry grow in front of our eyes. Even today, though we've grown, almost on all parameters, but still our share of business that we get from the chemical industry is still very large. Close to 25% of our overall revenues come from comes from the chemical industry. And we've seen massive transformation happen, from, I think if we were to begin, I think the first problem that at least what I've heard from my father, my uncles, was around visibility. When the vehicles used to leave, from point A to point B, the biggest issue that companies used to face was they were not able to trace where the vehicle is. So I think the problem, the nature of the problem was as basic. Now today we have all the technology in the world to trace and track, and organizations like Nicer Globe, I think ICC, powered by Selvanji, are playing a incredible role in improving the visibility and giving roadside assistance in case of any issue. So the problem started with plain vanilla visibility. Then there was a time where especially in the bulk transportation side, pilferages used to be a large problem, where the drivers used to either steal the chemicals and sell it off or mix it. So those were the problems. Now today, as we see, the problems have changed. The industry has evolved. Safety is on top of everyone's mind, and it is non-negotiable. A lot of work has happened as far as safe chemical logistics is concerned, and we as VTrans, we never shy away from admitting that whatever whatever we've learned from our clients. And I've said this on multiple forums. That our clients have been our biggest teachers. We've seen them evolve, we've grown along with them, and we've adapted. I think that is one of the reasons why we are, continuing to grow at almost 19-20% CAGR year on year for the last 20 years. So that is basically by one formula or one secret sauce that we really believe and we practice day in and day out at VTrans is that every day should be better than yesterday. So every day, whatever we do at VTrans, we want to do it better than what we did yesterday, and we need to continuously keep evolving. There is most of us would know that there is a very, very popular saying which goes by, what got us here won't get us there. So we need to continuously keep evolving. So yeah, so we've seen the industry grow, and keeping up with the changing times has been the key to VTrans's success and the role that we played in the chemical logistics space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronak Bhai. Just opening up for 2 minutes. Any questions to the panel, because we are running behind time, but would like to give you opportunity to ask questions to our esteemed guest and the panelists, if any question. Yes, can somebody circulate the mic, please?
Good morning, everyone. My question is to Mr. Harish. This is Jay
If you can just
Shahaya.
introduce, so it will help.
Yeah, this is Jay Shahaya from the promoter family of VTrans. Just one question I had is, over the years, over the decades, we've known Asian Paints to also be a distribution company as well, because the distribution patterns, the network that Asian Paints has, replenishment model that Asian Paints used to command is maybe what got Asian Paints to the level as well, being a market leader for over the last few decades. Coming to the competition that's happening, the synergies, the JVs, acquisitions, the new companies coming up in the paints industries, what do you see how the next decade would be for Asian Paints, given the distribution being one of the strongest footholds for Asian Paints? How do you now see to further pivot and sustain the market leader?
So I think before we were just discussing, as to there's a lot of excitement in the paint industry, right? And I think a lot of it is coming from where India as a country is on the growth trajectory, right? So just to give a quick stats, the per capita paint consumption in India is to the range of around 5 kgs per head. Now you can say, oh, it's a large population and all of that, but compared to even some of the, let's say the economies like Indonesia or Malaysia, which is in the range of 13 to 15 kgs. So you just see how much upside potential is there in terms of paints which can be kind of applied, right? So that obviously means that there is a lot more growth which is overall going to kind of happen in the industry. So largely we see that, the industry will has a huge appetite for probably entrants to kind of come in. Obviously, in terms of, how the competition, customers will benefit when more and more options kind of come in. And from our perspective, at least our view has been to really create, so if you see the Asian Paints journey, we always put the consumer at the center of what we do. So, really going from just paint as a product to bringing color as a theme, and you would have seen a lot of how we engage through the Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai campaign, for example. And more recently, we are saying that, we really want to capture the share of the space in a consumer's home. So paint goes on the wall, which is share of the surface, and whatever is within the wall also is part of the decor, right? So we are on that trajectory to kind of really see how we can kind of, add value to the consumer and, really engage in helping her create a beautiful home. So that's the idea, and we kind of getting into the entire home decor category and really taking a network along with it. So largely it will be, how do we continue to engage with the consumer, solve the consumer problems, both to products and services. So a lot of it is now pivoting around services. So you can, and a lot of it is known, right? So I think the idea is to really keep solving consumers' problem, offer that value proposition, innovate and go on that journey. That's the way we are kind of approaching.
Thank you very much. With that, I think we conclude the session. Any more questions, maybe you can ask in the later stage, as most of them would be there, except I think Neeraj sir, you're there for till tea break, right sir? Fantastic. Then
let's applaud for all the panelists. Thank you. Now may I please call upon Mr. Manish Panchal for vote of thanks? No. Okay. All right. So can we please gather for a group photo, gentlemen? A group photo, please. Yeah. Let's applaud once again for all the speakers and guests. Thank you so much. That is a wonderful start for the conference. Now it's time for us to get into the first panel discussion for the day on the topic Unlocking India's Growth Potential in Chemicals and Petrochemical. I would now like to invite our esteemed speakers to join us. Mr. Raunak Shah, Executive Director, VTrans India Limited. Let's applaud for Mr. Raunak Shah. Mr. Arush Kishore, Senior Vice President and Head Integrated Ops, Liquid and Gas, Reliance. Mr. Arush Kishore. Mr. Raghavan Santhanam, Director, School of Ports, Terminal Management and Logistics, Symbiosis. Mr. Raghavan Santhanam. The session would be moderated by none other than the session leader, Mr. Sanjay Desai, Supply Chain Leader, Singapore. Let's applaud for Mr. Sanjay Desai. Over to you, gentlemen.
Should I sit here? Should I sit there? Yeah, I have to sit in the center. Just move a bit there. Aruji, move there. Yeah, thank you. All right. Good morning, guys.